Yo. Gonna be cooking again. Alright. Just broke my camera. So I'm working with what I got. There's
though, I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor for this video, Factor.
If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that delivery and overpriced takeout. So, they can turn a $15 meal into a $30 meal, and in this economy, that's insane. So that's why I started using Factor. Factor is cheaper, healthier, and way more delicious. No more stressing out over cold, half-eaten pizza and french fries. Because now you can get chef-made, dietitian-approved meals sent right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from each week, you have a range of options. Calorie-smart meals, keto-friendly meals. For me, vegan options. In the box they sent me, I got sweet potato dishes, turkey dishes, as well as like these caffeinated, plant-based protein shakes, all of which I need for squats. How am I gonna squat 365 if I'm not caffeinated and carved up? So click the link below to get 50% off your first Factor box and then 20% off your next month of orders with code 50 Bantana. And thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video.
Admittedly, this is the only episode of this interview series I have watched. It's kind of hard to call Maverick, at least in this video, an interviewer per se, because a lot of the time it just kind of seems like he's throwing a few words and comments in edgewise, as Tyler is just like on a roll, just like a complete runaway train who just can't be stopped in the midst of the rant that he's on, specifically in the section of the interview where Tyler sort of seems to be really just venting about what he sees as the modern state of the music industry. There are some things he said in this section of the interview that have rubbed people the wrong way. Personally, I think he gets some of his points right, some of them maybe not so much. First off, he throws out this big gripe about musicians out there who are getting hot and getting popular and making waves off what he sees as meme records. According to him, they're not actual musicians.
There's so many niggas out right now that aren't musicians that are being treated like musicians because they make meme records or whatever. And I'm like, there's niggas out here that's really special, really alien, really talented, really putting in the work.
A lot of people have taken issue with specifically this comment out of the interview, and I could kind of see why, because it does read, at least on the surface, as a bit of hypocrisy on Tyler's part, because anybody who is well familiar with his career knows that he kind of started off things in, I guess you could say, in a reverent fashion. I mean, part of what made Tyler the Creator such an interesting and compelling character for a lot of younger listeners as he was beginning to break out is that he didn't really take himself too seriously. He was always down for a joke or a gag or a spoof or a something. He was ridiculous. He was silly. He was over the top. He was an exciting switch up from the old guard rap hierarchy that was laid out before he came onto the scene. And now, because of him and musicians like him, the landscape has completely changed. And again, I do get the aggravation a little bit because it does feel like Tyler's current day comments in this interview feel almost like a rejection of that, or almost like he kind of forgot how he got to where he is today. But with that being said, I do still think he has a point, because some of this surface level mimetic viral crap that is being shoveled down people's throats now. Like, even Tyler in his worst moments in his catalog, Cherry Bomb, for example, was still more interesting, musical, subversive, and substantive than that. That being the artist that he's, railing about at this point. He's not even necessarily mad per se that there are people out there like making stupid, jokey music. He even goes on to say like, do your thing, make your bag, I'm all for that. He just seems to take issue with the fact that the audience and publications alike are emphasizing this stuff to a degree where it's overshadowing artists who are actually kind of worth a damn, are actually trying to create music and art that has depth and meaning to it, losing sight of that in favor of only focusing on people who are just kind of following trends for the money. There's gonna be negative consequences to that down the road, as younger viewers and listeners are left with the impression that you don't really need to want to be driven by anything else other than money in order to make it in the music industry. There's another section in the interview where I disagree with Tyler quite a bit. This might be the biggest point of contention in the conversation, where he seems to think that these days everybody's so homogenized, everybody's doing and saying the same thing, and back in the day in 2003, everyone sounded different.
You go to 2003, Jay didn't sound like T.I., who didn't sound like 50. Pharrell didn't sound like Dre, who ain't sound like fucking Quick, who ain't sound like Ye or Just Blaze or Alchemist. Eminem didn't sound like fucking Jill Scott. Jill Scott wasn't trying to sound like Julian from the fucking Strokes. Everyone was them fucking self.
But the thing is, like, as somebody who was older than Tyler during that point in time and was an avid music consumer, while it is true we can look back on that time in retrospect and say, hey, look, here are these great artists who withstood the test of time, who all sound wildly different from each other. Having actually lived through that era, there was a lot of homogenization going on in the music industry in the 2000s. Maybe not as much across the board because it was more through the industry in terms of what could be released and what couldn't be, just like directly uploading your music. Social media was like this stuff.
Better share it on.
Also, on top of it, hip hop was not quite the cash cow back then that it is now. There wasn't quite as much trend chasing in hip hop across the board, but it still very much was there. Like, this time period is referred to as the bling era for a reason. I mean, 50 Cent wildly can say, like in Tyler's interview, yeah, he sounded wildly different from all these other massive rappers who also have, sort of transcended the era that they came out of. That is true, but around that time there were tons of lesser, way more mediocre rappers who were like just chasing after the same thing that 50 was, because that was the trend and that was the meta at the moment. Back in the day, you had Jay-Z copycats, you had 50 copycats, you had Soulja Boy copycats, and a lot of this was made worse by the fact that radio stations at the time were being bought out left and right, programming schedules, by Clear Channel, by Viacom, so it wasn't as much as there used to be musically. Look, ultimately there was most definitely musical and cultural homogenization going on at that time to a degree. Wasn't as bad as it is today. I guess we could argue that, but it did exist. And then finally, to close things out in this video, there is a section of this conversation where seemingly Tyler is talking about, without mentioning him by name, that up-and-coming rapper who I have discussed on my main channel in a not good video, Ian, who personally I just see as kind of a very boring, mediocre artist who is essentially ripping off the likes of Lil Baby, of Playboi Carti, a little bit of Future in there too. And Tyler seems to take issue with Ian and what he does, calling it some kind of mockery of the music of Gucci Mane and Future.
Swanky, regular, like, Caucasian dude. And he's, like, mocking Future and Gucci Mane, like, rap music. And, like, people are like, this shit hard. This is, like, weird. And I'm looking at it, and something about it, like, don't even sit well with me in comparison to someone like a Mac Miller or Eminem.
Apparently, Ian's manager, Boo, took to social media to tear Tyler down over these comments, saying that he's essentially just hating on the youth and the stuff the kids are into these days. And there's been lots of comments as well across social media and on Reddit, essentially painting Tyler as kind of out of touch. And once again, hypocritical, because it's not exactly like Tyler took his own career super seriously out of the gate. Now look, personally, I do think there is some validity to the criticisms Tyler is facing in reaction to his comments that are seemingly about Ian. I just think he's going about making his points in a sort of ineffective way. Because ultimately, Ian, as much as he may be a little hee-hee-ha-ha at points, we don't necessarily have proof of the fact that he's mocking or has any kind of like irreverence for Gucci Mane or Future, in the way that Tyler had quite a bit of irreverence for some of the greats that came before him early on, be it, in his public comments after he blew up, or even on message boards before he got popular. And I'm not really a huge fan of his obsession with, the seriousness with which Ian or anybody else approaches their music, because I don't think the level of seriousness that you portray in your art or your public persona is necessarily a reflection of the artistic merits of your work per se. With that being said, though, I do think there is reason to point at Ian as an example of how viral music marketing in the current day music industry can go wrong, because it sometimes fast tracks some of the most worthless and mediocre music that mankind has ever generated. And Ian is a prime example of that, because repeatedly, when it comes to his production choices, his flows, his lyrical content, and even his song structures, he really truly brings nothing to the table that we aren't already getting, but better, from at least several dozen other artists. And look, hate on Tyler for his comments all you want, and call him out as like, hey, you used to be funny, you used to be childish, you used to be this, you used to be that. Also remember, during that time when Tyler was dicking around, and look, I was a very big Odd Future and early Tyler the Creator critic myself. Yeah, remember that during that time, Tyler also frickin' made Yonkers, and I would put money on Ian over the course of his entire career. He's never gonna make a track that is as good or is as impactful as Yonkers. I guarantee Ian's entire career will come and go without a single song that is as good or as important as Yonkers, because he's not bringing the musicality, the substance, or the artistry that he's going to need to do that, even as he's bringing other people into the fold, because let's remember, Tyler the Creator was very much a self-starter at the beginning of his career, having written and performed and conceptualized Bastard on his own. Meanwhile, Ian is just basically doing the same crap that a bunch of other rappers that are also not that interesting are doing, but he's just a white guy doing it. Again, I think Tyler could have put his words better, but I can understand why he would see that and just be like, what the fuck is this shit? Why is anyone excited about this? Because it really is that mediocre and uninteresting. So yeah, while I do think he may have left himself exposed rhetorically at a few points there, I don't think there's anything wrong with Tyler pointing out the fact that there's no reason Ian should be as big of a deal as he is right now, because he really is doing nothing special whatsoever. And while sure, he and his manager and everyone around him is allowed to get their bag, let's not pretend they're doing anything else other than that. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. Over here next to my head is another video to check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Tyler the Creator, Ian, forever.
Hi, I'm in the UNHCR warehouse, and they're just giving me a tour of their stock, which is enormous. The cooking sets for an entire family, which... Damn. Man, let's go work, bro.
Linkin Park is back, and they've got a new singer, and there is a lot of drama going on, and there's a lot of weirdness to talk about. I feel like all of you have heard of Linkin Park before. They're probably one of the most well-known bands of the modern age. And even just hearing the name Linkin Park is like time travel for my brain. It just transports me, like astral projects me back to 2002. I've said this before, Hybrid Theory is my favorite album ever, and I think it always will be. It was the soundtrack to my formative years. The boner jams on here I don't think will ever be beaten. And I feel the same way about Meteora. I think both of those albums are masterpieces. But when Hybrid Theory comes on, It's like Popeye getting his spinach. I'll hear that and I'll just go fucking superhuman. I'll feel like I can run through 5 brick walls. Point is, I feel strongly about this band, and when Chester Bennington tragically passed away, it was really rough, and it still is. It's extremely sad. He is a one-of-a-kind talent that will never be seen again. However, Linkin Park the band is back, and they have a new singer, and last week they performed a concert with her. Her name is Emily Armstrong. So they did a performance with Emily, they released a single with Emily, and Linkin Park is putting out an album with her as well. And there's more feelings and emotions here than in Inside Out 2. There has been a lot of discussion around it, and since the performance, a lot of information has come out that has changed the conversation from Linkin Park and even the new song they put out, and put it entirely on Emily Armstrong. Because she's got a lot of weird stuff that's gone on, to put it lightly. So, she's apparently a Scientologist and was actually at like a preliminary hearing for Danny Masterson as like a show of support for him. If you don't remember who that evil piece of shit is, let me jog your memory. Danny Masterson is the actor from That 70s Show who was a rapist in real life. He is a convicted rapist. And if that doesn't, reconnect some neural pathways in your brain, maybe you'll remember some of the drama that happened last year, where some celebrities wrote character letters to the judge going over how great of a guy Danny Masterson is to try and help with some lenient sentencing for him. He's got a great smile. Well, he never raped me. Come on, have a heart. What are you doing? Have you seen That 70s Show? What an actor. And some of those celebrities include Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, who were glazing him like a donut. And then once all this information came out, they then released an apology video trying to, reduce the shrapnel they were getting hit with all the backlash from it. Not to just go off on that tangent, but that is still an infuriating thing that happened. Anyway, though, Emily Armstrong comes into the picture because she was called out by Cedric Bixler Zavala, who brought to light the fact that she is a Scientology member who showed up to the Danny Masterson early hearing as part of a group, basically as like an intimidation tactic. It certainly isn't the best thing to be learning about this new vocalist who's replacing a beloved singer. And it's left fans very upset. I'm not going to dive too deep into everything that's come out about all of that. However, Emily Armstrong responded with a post about it, where she said that she misjudged Danny Masterson. She, regrets doing that and doesn't support it. However, she didn't utter a peep about Scientology. That word was like Voldemort to her, which is really weird because it's not like that wasn't related, because that was kind of the whole reason that she was there, apparently. So I don't know why she wouldn't talk about that at all. I'm just kidding, pulling your leg. I know exactly why she wouldn't mention Scientology. Because she's probably afraid to, fearing for her fucking life if she pisses off the Scientologists. That's kind of the whole situation in a nutshell. It's by no means a thorough dive into all of it. I highly encourage all of you to read more from Cedric Bixler Zavala about this situation and more information around it. And there's been a lot of good coverage on all of it. I just kind of wanted to give you a bare breakdown of it. And I also kind of want to give you my perspective on Linkin Park moving forward with a new singer, even if it wasn't Emily Armstrong. I really do think it is fine for Linkin Park to continue as a band. I know a lot of people have said they should have changed their name or something. I disagree. I don't think there's anything wrong with carrying on the legacy of Linkin Park as a group. I think that is a totally understandable thing to do, especially if they all still have passion for the project. And I think everyone, including them, knows you can never replace Chester Bennington. And I think them hiring Emily Armstrong to do that is them understanding that it's an impossible task to replace a talent like that, a soul like that. So Emily Armstrong being their vocalist is very much not a Chester Bennington, impressionist or anything. She sounds completely different. During their live performance, she sounded fine. There were some moments where her voice would crack and sometimes it sounded a bit like karaoke, but overall, she did a good job with the songs as a singer. I did not like the single at all. That's just not my style of music that I really vibe with. That didn't have me wiggling my finger and salivating for the album to drop, unfortunately. And it's no secret, I didn't really like any of Linkin Park's albums after Minutes to Midnight. But even still, I've always had like an appreciation of the band. I think there was a time when I was like in college where I was really upset that the music they were putting out wasn't the music I was used to. But I've come to understand now, since I'm 30 years old, that you're just not going to be doing the same thing forever, and it's silly to expect that. So them changing their style so much over the years makes a lot of sense to me. It's just not a style that personally resonated with my taste, and there's nothing wrong with that. I also wanted to mention that I completely understand why Linkin Park wouldn't want a clone of Chester to replace him and move forward with this group. There is a group called Hybrid Theory, and they are a tribute band to Linkin Park. And their lead singer, his name is Ivo Rosario. There are times where he sounds almost indistinguishable from Chester Bennington. He is about as close as I think anyone could ever come to sounding like Chester. Even if someone gathered all the Dragon Balls and made a wish to just have Chester's voice, I still don't think it would sound the same. I think Ivo Rosario is as close to that as a mortal can possibly get. His screams are pretty much one-to-one sometimes. He has the raspiness and the grit to his clean vocals that only Chester could really do. Like, even when he was doing Given Up, which has Chester's longest continuous scream, Ivo matched not only the same tone of the scream, but also the same duration. He's an extraordinarily talented vocalist who sounds about as close to Chester as my two nuts are to the shaft of my cock. Like, it is close. And he also kind of looks like Chester. And I definitely don't think he should have been the replacement for Chester in Linkin Park. I, under no circumstances, think that would have been the right decision. I saw a lot of people flood Hybrid Theory's comment section saying, "How dare they choose Emily over Ivo? This makes no sense. Look at how close he sounds to Chester. He even looks like Chester's doppelganger. It looks like they were separated at birth. They're clones." I just don't think it would be a good idea. Picture this. You lose your best friend in the world, and then a little while later, you find someone that looks and sounds just like them. I don't think you'd be like, "Oh, my new best friend. Perfect. I needed someone to come in here and fill these shoes." Like, it'd be extremely weird for the band, I would think, and it'd be extremely weird for fans, I would think. It certainly would be for me if I heard Linkin Park have a vocalist that sounds exactly like Chester. I think it'd almost be disrespectful in my eyes. So I do think them going for a different sounding vocalist for a different direction was the right call. I'm just not convinced Emily Armstrong was the right choice to fulfill that role. You know, I think you could have got a better quarterback. I feel like if the band knew all of the Scientology stuff, they probably wouldn't be super thrilled about that either, especially given everything that they've gone through. I'm not going to be, putting thoughts in their head, putting poop in their butt or anything. I don't know them personally. I'm sounding very social here. But from everything I've ever learned about them, it feels like a lot of what I've learned about Emily Armstrong would be very much not something they'd be super happy about. And I don't think that she's the best possible vocalist they could have gotten or anything either. But anyway, what I do think is that Ivo Rosario and the Hybrid Theory tribute band is a really, really fucking fun group that is touring. And it's a group I really want to see. I never got to see Linkin Park live, and it's something that I really regret. A huge missed opportunity. I was really considering going to Revolution when it came to the Swamp Down here, but I got really nervous and cold feet about being around a lot of other people, so I ended up just pussying out and not going, and I never got to see them perform live. But seeing Hybrid Theory perform live will probably be about as close as I can ever get to experiencing a fraction of what an OG Linkin Park concert must have been like. And I think that's super cool. I am really happy that Hybrid Theory is such a talented group that does all of these tracks justice. And hopefully they'll come around the area at some point so I can go to one of those concerts. But I do not think Ivo Rosario would have been the right call to replace Chester Bennington in Linkin Park. I think it just would have been a little weird for the legacy of Linkin Park and Chester. Anyway, though, that's really about it. See ya. P. Diddy. I'm sure most of you know that name, and I'm sure in recent times you've at least heard a little bit about the awful things he is accused of. P. Diddy has been a huge individual in the music industry for decades now, and with a lot of new information coming to light about his past as well as what he's been doing behind the scenes, a lot of people are comparing him to the Harvey Weinstein or the Epstein of the music industry. It's abhorrent stuff that's come to light. And in recent times he's become known as the Diddler. And you don't want to fiddle with the diddle. P. Diddy's got a laundry list of extremely serious accusations, and he's embroiled in a ton of controversy as well as lawsuits, and there's just been a lot to keep track of with everything he's accused of. From car bombings to assault to abuse to sex trafficking. It's like he's trying to get the platinum trophy for crime. He's committed like every crime imaginable, allegedly. It's scary stuff. And like I said, there's been so much that I imagine a lot
You invited to the Diddy party, bruh.
Luckily, Jackson, Windigoon, and myself did all the heavy lifting and compiled all of the information about everything he's accused of into our Red Thread episode covering P. Diddy. I'll drop a link to the full episode in the description, but for this one, I'm just going to give you all of the most pertinent information concerning the P. Diddy case. We're going to start with Cassandra Ventura's case against P. Diddy. She was in a relationship with him for quite some time and suffered greatly as a result. It initially started with P. Diddy signing her to his record label, Bad Boy Records. He signed her for a 10-album record deal, which is a ton. 10 albums is more than probably most artists have ever put out. Unless you're someone that's just using AI-generated music, it's hard to just shit out 10 albums. That's a lot. Like, that's not small potatoes at all. You're fucking in there for like 30 years to make 10 albums, most likely. And it seems like from the very start, this was all just a ploy, a nefarious scheme from P. Diddy to get Cassandra to be with him. So immediately he started driving a divide between her and her boyfriend. He would leverage his power in the industry to just have control over her, and just a horrible, horrible situation.
So, on the 16th of November of 2023, P. Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, filed a lawsuit detailing a years-long series of abuse perpetuated on her by Diddy. Ventura claims she was trapped in a cycle of sexual abuse, violence, and sex trafficking, listing that Diddy, A. raped Mrs. Ventura in her home after she tried to leave him, B. often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and bleeding. C. blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Mrs. Ventura. D. forced Mrs. Ventura to engage in sexual acts with male sex workers while masturbating and filming the encounters. Ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive whom he learned was nearby.
Alright, never mind. He could have absolutely killed Tupac if he's doing He's assassinating rival industry executives.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, I don't know if you clarified, but the car explosion was actually Kid Cudi being the victim. So Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway, and P. Diddy is the one that's blamed for it.
Cassie was in a relationship with producer Ryan Leslie from 2004 to 2007. It appeared from the start, however, that Diddy was interested in a relationship with Cassie. he started to push her away from Ryan and forced a divide between them. Diddy was in a long-term relationship with Kim Porter, which ended in 2007 due to his alleged infidelity. Even while in his previous relationships, Diddy would apparently not allow Ryan, her boyfriend, around, flirting with Cassie and forcing her to do drugs while she was in private with him. Cassie was young and impressionable. Diddy flaunted his wealth, showing his ability to look after her or control her. Diddy had the ability to skyrocket Casey's career, but in return, he seemed to have wanted her obedience and loyalty. She feared that rejecting him would harm her future career and album deal, so she eventually went along with his request.
So just the age-old manipulation tactic that all these Hollywood producers and all these executives have used time and time again. It's like
you want to be famous, don't you?
Yeah, you want to be famous.
Just holding it over their head.
Just some awful stuff. The stuff that started the Me Too movement, obviously. Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, obviously. Just massive amounts of pervasive corruption that's kind of systemic in all those entertainment industries. And yeah, I'm not shocked at all that Diddy is one of them, the biggest proponents of it.
Yeah, people using their power to get sex. Yeah. Casey decided to leave, prompting Diddy to repeatedly message her throughout the night, accusing her of leaving him high and alone.
Imagine getting those kinds of messages and these actions from what is ostensibly your boss. Because he is.
Yeah.
He's a boss.
Come back, frowny face.
You're just gonna leave me like this? I'm scared.
I'm high and I don't want to be alone.
Why have you never messaged me like that,
The phrase of that did seem kind of juvenile, accusing her of leaving him high and alone.
I'll start sending you those text messages, Jackson, when I'm out in the bars. Like, Jackson, I'm so lonely.
Why did you come? Why aren't you here? Where's my hug?
Yeah, where's my hug?
But it's a little funny that someone whose whole mantra is as a big, tough and grumble rapper, part of the lawsuit is that he had a cuck fetish, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's how that always goes, right? I feel like we see that a lot with these perceived powerful people, like strong guys. It's always well, you actually really like to watch me fuck other dudes in front of him all the time.
Oh yeah? Yeah, you think you're tough, you think you can take my girl? I bet you'd like to. Why don't you do it?
Reminds you when you were broke.
You're so tough, why don't you fuck my girl? How you think
In 2007, there was another instance where Diddy paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party supposedly hosted by Casey. This provided her with an excuse to travel to Miami and with her boyfriend. Casey was unnerved by Diddy's ability to manipulate others into lying for him, and she felt extremely uncomfortable with the entire situation. This guy had a fake flyer to have her fly down? This is the most, high celebrity,
just so he wouldn't be alone.
Casey alleges that Diddy or his management controlled every aspect of her life. He introduced her to a lifestyle permeated by drug use, which contributed to her compliance. He insisted that she refer to him as Pop Pop, a term she called her grandfather.
Fucking disgusting.
Gross!
Oh, yuck.
Diddy would have his personal staff accompany Casey during all of her day-to-day activities, and even some of her medical records sent to his email address. The example listed in the lawsuit is from when Casey suffered memory loss, possibly due to injuries from abuse and/or drug abuse. When she had an MRI, her results were sent to Diddy and not her. Diddy also made Casey get prescriptions from his doctor in her name for medication that he was addicted to when he exhausted his own supply of pills.
Yeah, that's so...
Lex Luthor?
Yeah, that's fucking just constant drug.
Diddy would often show spouts of incredibly violent fits of rage, apparently beating Casey multiple times each year, leaving bruises all over her body. He would go to extensive lengths to hide evidence of this, like having Casey hide away in hotels for days while she healed. She recalls after one particular party, in which Jay-Z was named as being in attendance, that Diddy kicked and hit her and forced her out of the vehicle on 5th Avenue in New York City. She got a cab to take her to her apartment, but was so traumatized and afraid of Diddy that she had the realization that she could never tell anyone due to how influential he was in the music industry. Where Diddy discovered that Casey had a conversation with another music producer at a party in Los Angeles in 2009. Casey wanted to discuss her career with the producer. In response, Diddy abruptly removed Casey from the party and party in the car. Allegedly, Diddy forcibly pushed her into a corner of the car and proceeds to, quote, stomp on her face. Despite the presence of Diddy's security team, the situation escalated beyond their control, which showed her just how loyal his network was.
I doubt the security team even like tried to stop it, right?
Yeah. Casey was expected to find locations and hire male sex workers when Diddy wanted. The situations being frequent, sometimes weekly. He would become so intoxicated and belligerent during these situations, and would allegedly also beat Casey in front of the sex workers. The lawsuit lists multiple locations where this, what Diddy referred to as our secret to Casey, would happen, including Trump International Hotel, the London Hotel, the Intercontinental Hotels, and more. Hotel suites would be decked out with baby oil and astroglide, and Diddy would provide Casey and the sex worker with seemingly endless supply of drugs, including ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, weed, and alcohol.
What's GHB? I have no idea. I don't know what that stands for.
Diddy would film these encounters, and even when Casey deleted the videos, Diddy would claim that he had backups.
So, using it for blackmail, probably, like hoarding these.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Casey tried to escape Diddy multiple times, but he utilized his staff and networks to lure her back in. During a brief breakup, Casey actually dated musician Kid Cudi. Diddy was irate as he had found her phone and saw emails between her and Kid Cudi. He apparently had a manual corkscrew in his hand and charged towards Casey in an attack. In a panic, Casey escaped to Kid Cudi's home. She returned to Diddy, however, as she felt as though she had no choice when Diddy would ask to just talk to her. Diddy was still enraged and hit her multiple times. Casey says that he threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car. Around this time, Kid Cudi's car did explode in his driveway, and Cudi has since come out and confirmed her version of these events.
It's probably just a coincidence, right?
Yeah, just faulty wiring somewhere.
Casey says she was stuck in a cycle of abuse, trying to run away, being trapped, apologizing, and coming back. It was a rotation of bruises, black eyes, busted lips, and heavy amounts of makeup. She believes that Diddy paid Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for hallway security footage that showed him beating and throwing glass at her.
Man, if that's fucking true, if that is true and they have proof to back that up, that Intercontinental Century City is complicit in hiding evidence of domestic abuse, fuck whoever.
Yeah, it had to be a manager or something, right? Because it's not like 50,000 is a bribe to the whole organization.
Yeah, I mean nothing. It'd go to an individual, so they need to find the individual.
They arranged a dinner in 2018 where she thought they would be discussing their official separation. However, instead they returned to her apartment after the dinner and he forced his way in and onto her. She repeatedly asked him to stop and attempted to push him away. She was sexually assaulted and this left her traumatized, and says she continues to suffer emotional distress. Just one day after the lawsuit was brought against Diddy, they settled outside of court. The terms of this were not disclosed, and Diddy's attorney in a statement made it clear that this was not an admission of wrongdoing. Cassandra's statement in this says, "I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms that I have some level of control. I want to thank my family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support." And Diddy's statement says, "We have decided to resolve this matter amicably. I wish Casey and her family all the best. Love."
This next allegation is from a woman named Liza Gardner. On November 24th of 2023, another lawsuit was filed against Diddy and singer Aaron Hall. So it was a suit against two people by Liza Gardner for battery, sexual assault, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. The lawsuit was filed within the time frame of the Adult Survivors Act and details an event that happened in 1990. Basically, what happened was Liza and her friend were invited to New York City by a few close friends of theirs who were members of a chart-topping recording group signed to MCA Records, which which Diddy was a part of. Liza was from North Carolina at the time. She recounts that they met up with Diddy and Aaron at the offices of MCA Records where an event was being held at the time. Diddy and Aaron were very flirtatious and offered rounds of drinks all throughout the night. So remember, this is in 1990, so this is a long time ago by this point. Diddy and Aaron extended an invitation to Liza and her friend to join them at Aaron's apartment for an after-party. There, Liza alleges that she was offered additional drinks and coerced into engaging in sexual activity with Diddy. Following the assault, Aaron allegedly barged into the room and proceeded to assault her as well. After the ordeal, Liza hastily dressed and fled the apartment with her friend following closely behind. And when they were speaking to each other afterwards, they kind of recounted their experiences and a lot lined up, suggesting that both women had been exchanged between both Aaron and Diddy. Days later, Diddy turned up to where Liza and her friend were staying, and he acted in a Diddy-esque irate manner, something we've come to know and kind of experience over the next 30 years as being pretty common with Diddy. He began to choke Liza to the point where she passed out, and he was also searching for her friend out of worry that she would alert the authorities about what had happened. This lawsuit goes into just really disturbing details, like apparently Aaron Paul had bragged about engaging in sexual activity with minors as well. Like there's information in the lawsuit about that specifically, and confirmed that Diddy was sometimes in the room when this was happening, so he was at least complicit to the conversations about some really disgusting stuff happening with minors.
So, one thing that you didn't mention here is that she was 16 at the time. Liza Gardner was 16 during this period.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't know why it was in there.
Yeah, I double checked it. Yeah, according to NBC, the amended complaint filed by Gardner on Tuesday, which was like a week ago, obtained by NBC, said she was 16 at the time, thus too young to consume alcohol or consent to sex.
So that's in the amended lawsuit? Maybe that's why it's
Yeah, this is the that might be why it's not there. Because I remember seeing that headline, and the fact that it wasn't there, I just thought it was important to mention as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you just missed it because this is pretty brand new.
Charlie, you can take the next one.
Sure. This next one is Dickerson Neal vs. Combs. On the 23rd of November 2023, a lawsuit was filed against Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Combs Enterprise LLC by Joy Dickerson Neal for suffering as a result of being drugged, sexually assaulted, abused, and being the victim of revenge porn. The lawsuit was filed within the time frame of the New York Adult Survivors Act, same as Liza Gardner's. Joy was a student at Syracuse University studying psychology. She was looking to make a step into the music industry and also worked many odd jobs in the industry, such as a receptionist at a renowned talent agency and as a location scout. When they met, Diddy made several advances on Joy, but she had heard that he had a reputation of treating women badly and rejected him every time. So he already had that reputation.
Yeah, and this is in 1990.
Yeah, before he even had like his massive amount of fame to his name. In January 1981, she eventually agreed to meet Diddy in New York, but she chose the Wells restaurant in Harlem as she was reluctant and knew the employees there. During the evening, she started to feel more comfortable, and they were sharing drinks and food, and she made a point to say that there was a period of time that she went to the bathroom and she left her drink unattended. Diddy did not want to date. Diddy did not want the date to end, didn't want the date to end, and invited her to run errands with him. And once they were in the car, he brought out a blunt. Originally declining, Joey felt pressured to take a hit, and Diddy told her he would have her home with enough time to study. After this, Joy says her memory is incomplete. She remembers feeling rubbery in the legs and being unable to stand, and he brought her to a music studio. Then she recalls being outside of where Diddy was staying, possibly thinking that it was his house, but an acquaintance of both of theirs answered the door. Once inside, she was sexually assaulted, and due to being drugged, was unable to fight Diddy off. She says that the day after, she was in so much pain in a way she had never felt before, and held a lot of embarrassment and shame. This resulted in her not going to the hospital or reporting the incident, instead seeking safety in her apartment. Devontae Swing, a member of the group Jodachi, would inform Joy a few days later that Diddy had filmed himself assaulting her and showed him and others the video. She was horrified to hear that everyone had seen it and that it would haunt her for the rest of her life. Joy recalls that Devontae wanted to speak up about it, but was scared that the band would lose their record deal as they were in the midst of recording their album Forever Lady. Holy shit. So, they saw this video, still didn't do anything about it. and he is bragging about assaulting her and filming it.
Well, not just bragging about it, they showed the video. Yeah, like they were just willingly showing these to people in the industry. Again, it's just.
And the dude's like, sorry, we got like this whole deal worked out, you know?
Yeah, so like I saw you get sexually assaulted and shit, that video was brutal, but we're recording Forever Lady right now, so if you could just like tough it up.
Every single time these situations happen where someone gets away with like decades of like assault and abuse and rape and stuff like that, it's always because there were 100 people who were like, yeah, but I didn't want to make things weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had so much going on that was in jeopardy if I was to report this. It's like, I mean, you know, is it that urgent? Do I need to report it?
We're doing great on iTunes. You know, I don't want to kill that momentum or anything.
Yeah.
What's that fucking saying that's always overused about how like the one thing that like lets bad people do bad things?
Evil prevails when good men do nothing.
Yeah, something like that.
That's the Call of Duty quote that comes up when you get killed in COD 4.
I'm pretty sure it's a Churchill quote originally, but yeah, it gets used everywhere.
It's true though, like so many situations here could have been prevented if people witnessing these events had put aside their ambitions, their goals, their fear of them being like targeted by Diddy, and instead done the correct thing and alerted the authorities.
Use your strength and crush that thing! With your help, I believe I can make the most out of my ability. Come work for me, Yuki.
I can fight against the Shuki, and I can avenge my big sister's death.
You're going down!
Yeah! This is how I'll become a hero! This is my story!
Give him hell!
So you're the one who lost Boss's goods. Boss sent me to repay you. Well, have something to say. Be careful now. I don't want to hear anything of my dad.
The goods were stolen.
About just the troubling stuff.
This is 1991. You could have stopped Diddy before he ever even spiraled even more out of control.
He wasn't even that.
Didn't.
He was successful, of course. I'm not gonna claim that he wasn't and that he didn't hold some level of power, but he wasn't Diddy, the multi-billionaire, well, the billionaire media mogul, like empire creator that he is now. Like it would have been way more possible back then.
I also just don't understand because like I feel like you gain so much more by being the one to blow the lid off it, right? Like this band or this group I'm not even familiar with, and they were so excited for this album that I don't know. But I probably would know them if this was the group that led to him going to jail for these kind of things and stopping him. Like they would have had so much more success.
I don't think back then, but now, yeah, like in current year where everyone's so connected and like the allegations and stuff like that gets a lot more screen time and people taking it seriously. But back then, all it would have taken was like P. Diddy saying like "no you" or something, and then like now they're shunned and no one believes them.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe back then it would have been different. Joy had tried to file reports against Diddy and had even allegedly spoken to several prosecutors with the intention of pressing charges. Members of the law enforcement told her that she needed witnesses or people who had experienced similar assaults. People around her were terrified to speak up against Diddy, as he was powerful and could ruin future opportunities. He was also known to be violent, and they seemingly did not want to be at the other end of his anger.
God damn it.
This is Lil Rod. On 26th of February 2024, a lawsuit was filed against Diddy, his son Justin, multiple members of his staff, and Chalice Recording Studio, Love Records, Motown Records, Universal Music Group, Combs Global Enterprises, and more, by Rodney Jones. Rodney Jones, or Lil Rod, was a former producer and videographer for Diddy. He worked on 9 songs on Diddy's album Love from September 2022. Sorry, put all that together. He worked on 9 songs on Diddy's album, Love, from September 2022 to November 20. I thought that was the name of the album, Love from September 2022. I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
The album name is Love from September 2022 to November 2023. A very specific period of time of love for Diddy.
Great year of loving, I suppose. But yeah, so he worked on that album, 9 songs for Love, and he lived with Diddy for months at a time. Lil Ron is said to have many witness statements, video, audio records, and images which corroborate his complaint. Apparently, Diddy required Lil Ron to film him all the time.
Which is a great idea. Which is a great idea if you're committing crimes constantly. Like, fucking crimes.
Hi, I'm Diddy. Welcome to Jackass.
Make sure you film this. What a fucking idiot. Of course, it's not idiocracy though, it's confidence. That's what's annoying about this to me, is he's not an idiot. Well, he is, but he's not an idiot in this way. He's just extremely confident that he's not going to be caught and no one will, care. That's what's so annoying.
It's his ego.
Yeah.
So on several occasions, took his phone and recorded himself. So he started vlogging his own shit too.
Yeah, great.
This has resulted in hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Diddy, his staff, and guests engaging in illegal activity. Lil Ron claims to have irrefutable evidence of the acquisition, use, distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms. The displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms, case 124CV 01457, document 1 filed on 2/26/2024. Page 7 of 738.
You didn't need to read it specifically. You could have just said it.
Well, no, just in case anyone wants to check out the case number and they're only listening via audio. So they can go and quickly remember that case number. Mr. Combs providing laced alcoholic beverages to minors and sex workers at his home in California, New York, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Florida.
Man, they got him at 4 different places. Handing out beer to kids.
Keep in mind, he wanted all of this documented. Him lacing alcoholic beverages and giving them to minors and sex workers at his homes.
Do you think he was doing it to jerk off to it, like he was proud of what was happening, or was he actually gonna use it in promotional footage or something?
You think he's jerking off to videos of him hanging out with his friends and stuff?
I don't know why he even wanted any of it recorded. There's nothing that you could use that for. I want to. Hey, Lil Ron, can you pull up that party from 2 weeks ago? I want to see me give this kid some beer again. I don't understand.
No, maybe it's when he's feeling lonely. He looks back at it and sees all the fun times he had with his friends.
He probably wanted to do some video with it, or be no, this is my life. This is what it's like. This is the lifestyle.
I don't know. I think another equally possible thing is this guy's got actual amnesia, he has memory loss problems and frequent drug abuse, and he needs this footage to remember his life.
It's like 50 First Dates, the end of 50 First Dates, he wakes up to this playing on the TV, he can't remember his whole life. It's like, oh shit, that's right, I'm a criminal. I beat women.
Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Christina Coram, KK, instructed her staff to retrieve drugs so she can provide it to Mr. Combs for his consumption. Christian Combs drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop TJ Jakes to soften the impact on his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. Young Miami's cousin and or assistant sexually assaulting Mr. Jones. Actor Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually harassing and assaulting Mr. Jones.
You didn't know about that?
Whoa. No.
Okay, this is going to get interesting, yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in so
I know. And it's not a great situation for it to pop back up in. And it only gets
holy shit. So rapper Redacted on Mr. Combs' yacht, consorting with underage girls, sex workers, and R&B singer Redacted in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home, consorting with underage girls and sex workers.
I want to know who they are so bad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you guys this article because I looked up Cuba Gooding.
No, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Well, this is 9 hours ago. There's no way it's here. It's just this headline and this picture associated with it is fucking extraordinary. So it says, Cuba Gooding Jr. surfaces in Miami amid Diddy's drama, and it's him on the back of a golf cart looking like really shocked at his reading.
He's reading it in real time. He's on his phone.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm gonna throw this up on screen.
He's got a vacation shirt. He's got a vacation shirt on. He's going to a yacht.
He's like, shit, I did what?
He's like, damn, who did I sexually assault? He's in the next picture, he's shaking his fist. Damn you, Little Ron! However, this turned from promises to threats. Allegedly, Diddy even threatened to harm Lil Ron physically, saying he would eat his face off. Diddy even said he would kill his own mother, Janice, to achieve his goals. Jesus Christ.
Unprompted? Just
Yeah, I can imagine how that conversation went. Listen, I will kill my mother right now. Like, I will do it.
instant.
You think Janice is reading these fucking allegations and be like, what the fuck? My son said what? It's fucked up.
My son's gonna kill me. Why?
Also, eat his face off. Was he on fucking bath salts at the time? Like, what a probably weird threat.
According to the lawsuit, Diddy was relentless, intimidating, flaunting his firearms, and boasting about his ability to evade consequences for violent acts to sow fear in individuals like Lil Ron. In September of 2022, Diddy was holding a writers and producers camp at Chow's recording studio. Diddy, his son Justin, and a man named G were in a heated conversation that moved from studio into a restroom near where Lil Ron was shitting upstairs.
Because he read restroom?
Yeah, I definitely thought that said shitting because they went to the restroom and I thought they parsed in on a pulpit.
That's the most fucked up allegation of all. They did not fully acknowledge it.
Where Lil Ron was sitting, which was about 2 feet away from the bathroom. He then heard